So the Black Ops 7 beta is just about over. It might be over by the time this video is up, but these stats will almost certainly carry over to the full game. That means that this information I'm about to tell you isn't totally pointless. I mean, it's still mostly pointless, but I'm making this video anyways. No one can stop me. Anyways, I tested all 17 weapons in the Black Ops 7 beta, both as they are and Pack-a-Punch, to see their damage per shot, critical damage, and what exact buffs they get from being Pack-a-Punched. With that information, along with a rough idea of fire rate, reload times, and other bits of information, I'm going to rank all of the guns in the zombies mode of the Black Ops 7 beta. And your job is to watch all of it, and then argue with strangers about why I'm wrong and you're right in the comment section. I mean, you're not, but you can argue about it. Oh, and I'm not considering attachments. There's not enough time for that. So at number 17, the first gun we're going to talk about is the first pistol, the Jaeger 45. Typically, the first pistol is pretty crappy by itself, duh, but then makes up for it by being good when Pack-a-Punched. Everyone knows the Mustang and Sally. And don't get me wrong, the Jaeger 45 does get much better when Pack-a-Punched, with the secret effect of becoming a shotgun, shooting 4 pellets per shot. It also shoots each of its shotgun pellets in a straight line when aiming down sights. So basically, it multiplies its damage output by 8, because its damage gets doubled and then it has 4 pellets, so, you know, 2 times 4 equals 8. And somehow, it still kinda sucks. So while it is much stronger Pack-a-Punch than when it's not Pack-a-Punch, it's fairly weak compared to other guns that are packed, and burns through ammo fast. It only increases its magazine size by 25%, which is low compared to most other guns, and since without Pack-a-Punch it's straight up bad, it clearly deserves the bottom spot. However, again, I want to say this is with the caveat of attachments not being considered in this list. Something like the akimbo attachment could make this gun more viable. I mean, I doubt it, but it's possible. Now, into weapons that are pretty usable before Pack-a-Punch, at number 16 we have the M10 something, I don't know. The first shotgun with the forgettable name. It does good damage per shot, and then has a critical multiplier of about 3.5 times unpacked, and 2 times when packed, which isn't the best, but considering it also jumps in base damage by about 3.5 times when packed, means that the damage per shot is very strong. 3.5 times is a lot for base damage to increase. However, its fire rate is fairly slow. You're not exactly guaranteed to do full damage because of the spread of the 8 pellets, and it has a painfully long reload time, reloading 1 shell at a time. You can cancel the reload and keep the shells you've already put in the gun, but then you don't have the full reload, so I don't know, that's barely a plus anyways. It also doesn't increase the magazine size at all or get any other benefits that I could find when Pack-a-Punched. So it might work in a pinch to take out the elite zombie, which is a zombie bear this time around, but you're going to struggle with mobs of zombies with it, and its long reload time can put you in serious trouble. Again, this isn't considering attachments. I'm not going to say that with every gun, but you can cut significantly down on the reload time with this gun, so that might bump it up a spot or 2 if I was accounting for attachments, but I'm not. At 15, something I almost forgot about is the melee weapon, the Flatline Mark II. I actually wrote down the name for this one. So honestly, I don't find the melee weapons in the newer zombies interesting at all, but this electrified stick thing deals 250 damage with the basic attack and 375 with the heavy attack, which is enough to one-hit zombies for quite a few rounds, and at no cost since, you know, it doesn't spend ammo. The problem is that it quickly becomes dangerous to use, given how close you have to be to the zombies, and that it takes a bit of time to actually do. Also, saving on ammo is pretty meaningless in newer zombies because of ammo caches. I would also miss a lot for seemingly no reason, which was dumb. The thing would swing right through them for 0 damage. No explanation. When Pack-a-Punch, the damage goes up quite a bit, and it unlocks critical hits, doubling damage up to 1350 with heavy attacks, which is a good amount. However, by the time you've unlocked Pack-a-Punch, melee stops being a very reasonable option. I guess it can be fun if you want to be unreasonable though. At 14, the VS Recon is your straightforward sniper rifle, which is ideal for taking out a singular zombie. We're not dealing with a singular zombie. It does strong critical hit damage, however its fire rate is really low, causing problems. I wasn't able to test exact penetration damage, but the snipers do seem to penetrate through more zombies than most guns, so its best use case is actually to round up zombies into a large mob so that you can take out several of them per bullet. So I lied about the singular zombie thing. When Pack-a-Punched, its mag size becomes 1.4 times the size that it starts with, which is on the weaker side. Only a 40% increase, kinda unimpressive. But it gets a hidden ability where its hipfire accuracy increases to near perfect. That's mildly cool, very mildly. Unfortunately, that just doesn't make up for the problems it has. Its low fire rate makes it not even particularly good at taking out the bear. It's just mediocre all around. At 13, the first fully automatic gun we're going to talk about is a decent SMG unpack-a-punched. Seriously, it can carry you pretty far. However, for some insane reason, its critical damage actually goes down when pack-a-punched. Yeah, the damage goes down when pack-a-punched. Perhaps it's a bug, but it makes it not worth using unless maybe you got a purple or orange one out of the mystery box. And even then, it'd be very temporary. There's simply better options, ones that actually deal critical damage. At 12, we have the other pistol, the Cap 40, the Coda 9, which is a fully automatic pistol doing about the same damage per shot as the semi-automatic pistol. You know, the Jaeger 45. I think it just goes how to show how bad the Jaeger is. Anyways, with its fast fire rate, good critical damage, and 2 times mag size when pack-a-punched, the Coda 9 has just about everything going for it, except for one issue. It eats through ammo insanely fast. It may have better DPS than some guns higher on this list. In fact, it probably has the most of all of the weapons that you can put attachments on, but it's less practical. At 11, next up is the XR3 Ion Sniper Rifle. It does insane critical damage and is useful for taking out the elite zombie bear thing, but of course struggles a bit with mobs. It also eats up ammo really fast since it's basically using 3 bullets per shot, and sniper rifles don't really get a lot of ammo to start with. When pack-a-punched, its base damage goes up by roughly 4 times, which is a lot, and its critical is 5 times that, which is on the better side. However, it only has 2/3 of its magazine size, which leads you to situations where you're not shooting the full 3-round burst. It's a bizarre change. It makes the gun even worse with dealing with mobs. But, like, why would pack-a-punch nerf an aspect of the gun? I don't know. I don't think we've seen that before. But the gun is really good for dealing with the bear if you struggle with it. That said, the bear really isn't that hard. Those weird little ankle biter ravagers are honestly what'll get you, and this thing sucks with dealing with those. At 10, the Mark 78 LMG is extremely disappointing, as LMGs are often some of the better weapons for zombies. I mean, the whole idea of just mowing down zombies with an absurd number of rounds just sits right with me. However, this thing doesn't do enough extra damage per shot to make up for its lower fire rate, and the large-ish magazine only goes up by 25% when pack-a-punched, which almost completely takes away its main advantage over other guns. You know, the massive magazine size. If it's not going up as much as the other guns, then, you know, the other guns are going to start outcompeting it in that aspect pretty quickly. Given its fairly long reload time, this gun can be more dangerous to you than the zombies. Just get a gun that doesn't take what feels like an hour to reload. At 9, the Dravik seems like it would be an all-around decent weapon for zombie slaying, but it's held back a bit by subpar critical damage. It also only receives a 66% magazine increase, which is better than the 25% we've been seeing, and definitely way better than the nerf that we saw on the Ion, but it's not the best. To me, it feels like they took one of the better guns for zombies and nerfed it last second, because some evil dev hates SMGs and fun. I mean, look at what they did to the poor Raiden. That said, the Dravik is still decent, there's just better weapons. Now onto what I'd say are particularly good weapons. At number 8, we have the other shotgun, the weird one, the Echo 12. It doesn't do nearly the amount of damage as the first shotgun, but the quick reload and large magazine makes it much more practical. Having to twist the magazine every 2 shots is a little annoying, I guess, but it also gets double its mag when pack-a-punched, only has to twist the barrel every 4 shots, and it gets the same effect as the first pistol where its pellets go in a straight line when pack-a-punched. That effect is a lot cooler with 8 pellets from the Echo 12 rather than 4 from the Jaeger 45, because then it actually does reasonable damage. Altogether, this allows the Echo 12 to do a decent job at both taking out mobs and the elite zombie. At number 7, the Razor 9mm is easily the best SMG for zombies in the beta. I guess it's the one that slipped through the fingers of the evil dev that hates fun. It deals roughly the same damage as the Coda when unpacked, but unfortunately, doesn't get nearly as much of a damage buff when packed. Like I said, the Coda probably has the best DPS of the guns you can put attachments on. I don't know for sure though, I'm not doing that much math. Anyways, the Razor gets double its magazine size, doesn't eat through ammo nearly as fast as the Coda, and gets a massive hip-fire accuracy buff, making it a great running and gunning gun. Also, I just want to take the time to ask, why do some guns get cool special effects and not all guns? As cool as it is, it's not like the Razor needed the accuracy buff. At number 6, the rocket launcher, the Arc M1, is great at taking out mobs and decent against the bears as well. It does great damage, obviously it's a literal rocket launcher, and it less obviously penetrates zombies, and then it has good splash damage where it hits the ground, allowing you to take out large groups with one shot. And, of course, its large damage per shot is good against the large health-having bears. When pack-a-punched, it shoots much quicker and puts all of its ammo into its magazine. The one problem is that all of its ammo is only 24 shots. And I also had it overheat one time, like it was a COV weapon from Borderlands. I didn't have time to test that mechanic, just know it's a thing apparently, but spamming all 24 shots with this thing isn't something you'll likely be doing anyways, so it's a pretty pointless thing. Oh yeah, you can also down yourself with it if you don't have PhD Flopper. I guess that's worth mentioning, but it's still so good at taking out mobs that I would generally recommend it as the best weapon to take as like a secondary, unless you find number 1. We'll get back to that though. At number 5, the M8 is pretty good all around, dealing good damage and getting a doubled magazine when pack-a-punched. However, while it has a slightly higher base damage than assault rifles, it also gets a smaller critical multiplier than the assault rifles. That and the fact that it shoots in bursts, slightly slowing it down, prevents it from being quite as good as the next entries. Like, that's really all there is to say about this gun, which is kind of a shame. There's a lot that could have been done with it to make it more interesting. The assault rifles are all very similar to each other in zombies. They all do good damage, get good straightforward buffs from being pack-a-punched, being double base damage per shot, and double magazine size. They're simply the most practical even if they're boring. However, at number 4, the MXR has a slower rate of fire, smaller magazine size, less reserve ammo, and lowest critical multiplier of the assault rifles. So, clearly this is the worst of the 3. Now, the third and second best spots need to be talked about at the same time. So they are the M15 in third and the Peacekeeper in second. Why? They're pretty much the same gun in terms of damage per shot, but from what I can tell, the Peacekeeper has a slightly higher fire rate and better mobility, which I can't exactly test, so I'm just going to go with what the game says here. However, the game also says the M15 has higher firepower, despite it doing 1 less damage per shot on average compared to the Peacekeeper, so it's not the most reliable. It could turn out that the M15 actually has a slightly higher DPS by some form of black magic after all. The point is, they're pretty much the same in zombies. The Peacekeeper does have one other advantage, being that it's a wall buy. This means that you can bring the ARC rocket launcher and wall buy the Peacekeeper, getting a very strong loadout without relying on the mystery box. And again, we're not going to talk about attachments like the 80 round magazine that the M15 can have. Nope, not here. Can't count that, so just forget it exists. That definitely wouldn't make it the second best gun if we were to count that. Nothing like that. Finally, and not too surprisingly, the strongest gun in the beta is the ray gun. I found it was super rare to get, I only got it once, but it's just hard to beat dealing thousands of damage per shot. It also has a splash radius, with a decent rate of fire, and magazine size. It's almost like aliens came down and designed a wonder weapon of sorts. The only downsides are that you can't upgrade it at the arsenal, mainly because it may as well already be max level, and that the splash damage can do 15 damage to you per shot, which isn't a lot, but you could still down yourself with it if you're not looking at the screen at all or something. Other than that, it's just so much better than all of the guns available so far, partly because all of the guns available so far just aren't nearly as strong as the guns we saw in Black Ops 6. And I think the ray gun is unchanged, but we're not seeing any massive critical multipliers, 400 round magazines, or exploding bullets. Just mild buffs and some nerfs. Seriously, I don't know if that's a bug or if the evil dev is real. Anyways, that's my ranking of all of the guns in the beta for zombies. Given that these guns likely won't change on release, I think we have a pretty good head start on figuring out what exactly is going to be the best weapons for doing the Easter egg. And right now I'd go with the rocket launcher Peacekeeper combo I was talking about earlier if I really wanted to do well. Of course, the new weapons we will see could change that, so maybe I did just waste your time. But yeah, this is all just my opinion, so what do you think? Would you rank them differently? Do you hate my voice? Is there any hidden effects that I might have missed? For example, I didn't test the armor damage or range, and of course attachments. That would simply have taken way too long. But let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, subscribe. But that's it for today, so yeah, see ya.
No one can stop me.